objective for this section is to be able to identify energy resources and also specifically take a look at which resources are renewable and which are not. The Earth provides us with everything that we need for life: food, water, and oxygen. But with a growing population, we have to take a very serious look at our energy resources. Our resources include water, minerals, forests, and also our animals. But there's much more to this story. Everywhere we look and everywhere we turn, we're faced with a growing population. In fact, as you can see, we're approaching 8 billion people on the face of the planet. Over time, as the population is getting larger and larger, the amount of resources we have is getting smaller. Therefore, the human population will not keep growing indefinitely. We're going to have to face some really hard decisions in the times to come. A renewable resource is a natural resource that can be replaced at the same rate which it is being used. Although these resources are renewable, they can still be used up before they can be replaced, which can present a problem. A resource that forms at a rate much slower than it is being used is known as a non-renewable resource. Coal, petroleum, and natural gas are all examples of non-renewable resources. It takes these resources millions of years to form. Let's take a look at just a few ways we use this electricity. This is an aeronautical view of New York City at night. This is an electrical power plant. And of course, this is a piece of highway with many countless cars. In addition, we also use much of our energy for defense. This is an aircraft carrier. We also use our energy for travel. I wonder how much fuel it takes to actually use one of these machines. The natural resources we consume goes towards generating electricity for factories, run cars, ships, and also planes, and to produce lights for all of our cities. Of course, petroleum, which is a liquid, is mined from the ground, actually pumped. This is an oil rig. And of course, after it's refined, it's used in cars. We use natural gas, which also comes from the ground, and you may use this in your house to cook with. And of course, there's coal, which is a solid that's also mined out of the ground, and this is used for electricity. So we have petroleum, which is a liquid, natural gas, which is a gas, and of course coal, which is a solid. Most of the natural energy we use comes from a group of natural resources known as fossil fuels. This is a non-renewable resource formed from the remains of plants and animals that lived long ago. Since all living things are made up of the element carbon, the fossil fuels are made up of carbon as well. Most of the carbon in the fossil fuels are found as a compound with hydrogen as well, and we call this hydrocarbons. 300 million years ago, the land masses we live on today were just forming. There were swamps and bogs everywhere, and the climate was much warmer. Ancient trees and plants grew everywhere, and tiny one-celled organisms called phytoplankton floated in the ocean. All of these organisms are what became our coal and also our petroleum products today. The energy that they stored within them from the sun was actually accumulated and stored under the ground, and now we use it. Just like millions of years ago, plants and photosynthetic organisms are capturing the light from the sun and producing their own form of energy. How do they do this? That's right, it's through photosynthesis. They're taking CO2 out of the air, water out of the earth, the sunlight. They're using that, and they're actually making glucose and oxygen. 99% of all energy on the earth comes from the sun and goes through this process of photosynthesis. Think about it. Anything that you eat, where is the energy coming from? It's coming from this process, photosynthesis. Any of the energy that we get from out of the ground, whether it be any of the petroleum products or coal. Originally, where did it come from? Photosynthesis. This is the most powerful equation that you're going to learn. When these ancient living things died, they decomposed, became buried under layers and layers of mud and rock and sand, and eventually they became all of the types of energy that we use today. During the millions of years that passed, the dead plants and animals slowly decomposed into organic materials and formed fossil fuels. Different types of fossil fuels were formed depending on what combination of animals and plant debris was present and how long the material was buried, what the conditions of the temperature and pressure existed when they were being decomposed. As a result, what do we use them for? Things like this, a simple light bulb. But I want you to take a moment, just a moment, and ask yourself, how many times did you use electricity today? How much more efficient was your life today because you could use electricity? So most people don't think about this. We use fossil fuels and also alternative energy to make electricity. But how? Electricity is produced by turning a turbine. Most turbines are turned by heat or energy caused by moving water. The spinning turbines cause large magnets to turn within wire coils, and as a result, we end up getting electricity that we can use in our homes. Now, we also have alternative resources. Because of the limited supply of fossil fuels and their negative effects on the environment, alternative sources of energy must be found. Here is an example: nuclear energy. Now, with the answer of alternative energy, I want you to also understand that there's going to be challenges with them. As you can see, there was human error with nuclear energy, and as a result, there was a meltdown in Japan. And after only 10 days, actually it was between 6 and 10 days, it actually reached North America's coastlines. Now, we also have hydroelectricity, where we can harness the energy of water and use it to our advantage. But what kind of problems do these types of dams present? Well, there's a few problems. There's downstream impacts. There's ecological impacts because you're impacting the environment of the fish. We also have wind farms where we can generate power by using wind. There's a lot of solutions out there, but there's going to be challenges along with them. Another type is ethanol. It's a type of fuel that we derive from corn. Well, what would be a problem with using ethanol? You're now using a food source for an energy consumption instead of a food source. So is it going to compete with it? I don't know. And then finally, there's solar. And a lot of people like the idea of harnessing the sun straight away using solar panels. But what are those solar panels made out of? Something to look into. So that concludes today's narrated PowerPoint video. I hope you enjoyed it. Take a look at the worksheet that comes with this PowerPoint and get those questions done. Have a good day.